Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strohm bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Good evening, everybody, and I'd like to welcome everyone to Channeling History. We're the only show where we speak to the souls that made things happen. I'm Barry Strohm, your host, and I will be doing the channeling and speaking to the spirits tonight.
I'm Connie Strohm, your co-host, and I would also like to welcome you to our show. Last week, we investigated what is happening in the Middle East by speaking with the spirits of Moses, King David, and Yasser Arafat. We asked the three of them to comment on the same questions in a roundtable discussion. They offered some very good ideas for a very difficult situation. This very interesting show is available on our YouTube channel. It's in the name of Barry Strohm and has over 620 videos. We're currently consolidating all of our audio broadcasts on a new platform named podbean.com. Just go to the site and search Barry Strohm. This week, we're going to speak with the spirit of the famous American broadcaster, Paul Harvey. His news broadcasts were on ABC Radio from 1951 to 2008. At one time, his programs reached as many as 24 million listeners, and Paul Harvey News was carried on 1,200 radio stations and in 300 newspapers. As part of his interview, we will play two of his audios, If I Were the Devil and An Open Letter from God. His spirit will then comment on each audio. Please feel free to submit any questions through the chat room.
So let's do a short disclaimer, and then we'll get on with the show. Opinions or statements voiced on our show are the channeled words of the spirits and do not necessarily reflect our opinions, those of the Parax Network or our sponsors. Before we channel, we also always say a prayer of protection. So Connie will say the prayer, and we will begin.
God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and keep us safe from all things that will harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Keep us safe from our egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God.
Now, Paul Harvey had a remarkable and memorable voice. He was famous for his The Rest of the Story segments. He spoke of family values, God, and was a definite conservative. One of his most famous radio segments was entitled If I Were the Devil, and that was first broadcast in 1965. In this segment, he made a prediction how the devil would create havoc in not only our country, but the world. When we play this audio for you, you will see his predictions have come true. So, Mr. Harvey, thank you for joining us on our show tonight. You truly had a remarkable career.
Yes, thank you, sir, for joining us. Would you like to begin with a message for our listeners?
Absolutely. Have you ever seen an old radio broadcaster that wasn't anxious to see the microphone? I tried to do my best. There were many times that I spoke of things that people had never heard of before. I tried to speak the truth. I tried to tell people what they should do in order to have happy lives, in order to understand God. I think that there were many times that I succeeded in what I was trying to do. I believe that the two audios that you will play tonight are some of the best ones that I've ever was able to come up with. In all the years of broadcasting, I met many, many people. Some of them were very good, and sadly, some of them were not so good. Today, I hope that all of the people that are listening will do the right thing, maybe tell their friends about your show, help push the words of God. I know that I tried in my subtle way for all the years that I was on the radio, but times have certainly changed, and I hope that I will be able to give some comments to show that I may have changed a bit myself. So thank you so much. And Connie, I know you have questions for me.
I do. Your father was a policeman who was killed when you were only 3 years old. How did that affect your early years?
It put quite a financial burden on our family, but it also made me draw much closer to my mother. She was raising our family. She did the best she could. She understood that it was only through the blessings of God that we would be able to maintain our lifestyle, to have food on our table. She worked very hard and she was a complete success. Being only 3 years old when my father was killed, I didn't remember too much about being with him, but I remembered his smile. And when I arrived over here, he was here to greet me. And I got to see that smile once more. So I missed him greatly. I'm now with him over here on this side. And I can tell you that reunions in heaven can be a wonderful thing.
Oh, I'm sure. You were born in 1918 and lived through the Great Depression. How did that affect your life?
It made me associate with the common person. The common people were the ones that were suffering the most. They were the ones that were losing their homes. They were the ones that were in the deepest financial problems. But in spite of what these people were going through, and many were so close to God, they simply asked for his blessings and they went on with their lives. The Depression was terrible. It was brought on by government inefficiencies. It was something that I hope our country never goes through again. But if the people that are running our government today still continue to do what they are doing, I can assure you that there will definitely be tough times ahead.
Indeed. Why did you choose a career in radio?
God blessed me with this voice. On the radio, it sounded very good and people loved to hear it. They thought that because I had a good voice, maybe I had a good brain as well. And they trusted me. I always tried to speak the truth, and I tried to tell people what they should hear. Not what they wanted to hear, but what they should hear. I did all of these things that I could, and I loved being on radio. It was much simpler. Television came, and many people were swarming to be on the television. But I enjoyed radio. I had many people following me. I had much success on radio. It's a great medium, and I am so happy to have this chance to be back upon it again. I have certainly missed being able to speak into the mic.
Your skills were a blessing to the American people and around the world, I guess. Oh, why did you not make the transition to television?
I was much more comfortable not having to worry about my appearance every moment. I was never a vain person. I always wanted simply to please God and to do what I thought was right. Yes, I wanted to succeed. I was very lucky. After the Second World War, radio became incredibly popular. Television was beginning, but it was in its most infant stages. Radio was where people turned for the news. It took a long time until television established news individuals that people trusted. I spoke as an ordinary person. I spoke of things that ordinary people wanted to hear. And I could speak to individuals in their automobiles. I could speak to them as they worked in the fields. It was very difficult to take the old television sets into your car or into the fields where the farmers were working. I had great respect for the farmers. They're the ones that supply the food. They worked day in, day out from morning till dark. They were truly the backbone of our country. Today, the farmers are not respected. The small farmer has almost disappeared. Large corporations have taken over. Many things have changed since the time that I was on the radio, but it was something that I truly enjoyed.
What did you think about how President Roosevelt handled the Depression?
I did not agree with many of the things that he was doing. He was spending money that we did not have. He was creating jobs. He was not doing things to help preserve the families to stay on the farm as much as I thought he should. I think that if his efforts would have been directed in different directions than what he did, if he would have supported the small businessman, if he would have put money into the people's hands so that they could buy and purchase, if he had helped individuals stay on the farms, I think that it could have been much better. Keep in mind that it was not until the Second World War that the Depression truly came to an end, when the industrialization required for the military became a reality. I think that he has given much credit. He does deserve some, but I do think that he could have done a better job.
Sir, why did you become a conservative?
I was raised very conservatively. I was thankful for what was given to me. I was taught that you need to work for what you get. I was taught that if you want to succeed, that you need to live a good life. You see, those are all conservative values. When you're, shall we say, a liberal, you're expected to provide for others, which conservatives do as well. But socialism never works. It never will. It never did in the past. The more you direct the government towards socialized thought and socialized regulations, the more you're dooming a government to certain failure.
In 1945, you hosted a post-war employment program, Jobs for GIs. As you watch from the other side, what's your opinion of how our veterans are treated today?
I think that in many areas it's good, but I also think in many areas it's terrible. There is no excuse for as you drive down the street to see homeless veterans. They need help. They need more mental help. They need better access to doctors. If you live in the country or a remote area and are far removed from the military hospitals, you have problems getting the care and the service that you deserve. I think that the veterans associations and the government need to be more dedicated to the individual soldiers. I think that they think more in terms of them in groups and how they can care for the groups. But each group has individuals, and I think that each individual that has volunteered for the military, that has served, that has taken the oaths for their country, I think that they deserve all that the government can do for them. If the government would provide more benefits, I think that you would see many more people volunteering for the service.
We're going to play your show, If I Were the Devil, and then we have some questions about the audio.
Okay, I'm going to try to play this audio, and hopefully I hit all the right buttons. So here we go.
If I were the devil. If I were the devil. If I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. Thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Okay.
Okay, that was something. Were you a psychic?
I do think that in certain ways I had some psychic abilities. But what is in there is just common sense. Don't forget that I made this in the mid-60s, and it was a time after the Vietnam War was in full swing. People were turning away from God. There were riots in the schools. Much the same as is going on today. But yes, I think in certain ways I did have psychic abilities. I would see images and I would have dreams, and perhaps that is what I would thank for what we have in that message.
Oh, it was incredible. How did you come up with your predictions?
I would simply write them down. The words would come to me. When you are trying to do God's work, you will find that He comes to help. Just the same as when Barry tries to write the questions, that the spirituals will come to him and try to give him answers. I think that if you live a good life and if you try to follow God and do His will, then He blesses you with the information that you need to succeed. I know that I worked very hard on this open letter, but many people were struck by the words. Sadly, what applied in the 1960s is becoming more apparent in its application today. Some things change and some things never do.
Which of those predictions do you consider the most dangerous for our country?
The most dangerous for our country are the ones of spending beyond your limitations. The national debt is a huge problem today. But the most important ones for individuals is the one that describes taking God out of government, out of schools, taking his teachings, his directions away from the way people are currently leading their lives. If people do not return to understanding, coexistence, and love, then there will be a time that the evil people will take advantage of them, and perhaps they will use these weapons of mass destruction that Russia is so proud of and Iran is trying to get. It's just a matter of time until the world can possibly be destroyed if people do not return to know God and to follow his words.
Yes, we've heard that many times. What do you think as you watch from the other side about your predictions?
Actually, as I watch from over here, I'm a bit surprised just how accurate some of the things that I said were. It is almost like it is exactly what is taking place in your world today. I never thought that there would be a time 50 years in the future that people would be playing this recording and saying, wow, you certainly knew what was going on. You must have been a prophet. You must have had the ear of God. There must have been many things for you. But as I say, it was something that I wanted to do at the time. I was reflecting what was taking place in the 1960s. I did not realize that it would be taking place for so many years. I thought people would wise up, but some have, but sadly the vast majority have not.
Sadly, I agree with you. If you were in a position of power in our country today, what steps would you take to solve the problems that you discussed in the audio?
If I was president today, I would begin by limiting spending. Now, I know it is difficult times, and we need to support those countries that are trying to fight off other countries that are attempting to recreate their borders. But the first thing that I would do is eliminate waste. I believe there are entire departments in the government that could be done away with and savings made. I would make sure that the money was accounted for. Today you have places where billions of dollars are lost. They ask, where did you spend those dollars? And the people just throw up their hands and say, we're not sure, but look at your politicians and tell me which of them are poor people. They have all gotten rich on a very low salary by serving. Of course, they are serving themselves in many ways more than they are certainly serving the people. If I was president, I would try to promote candidates from the military, from leadership. I would promote individuals that have actually held jobs, that have fought in wars, that understand the horrors of it. I would nominate people that have actually lived the jobs that they are supposed to do. I would do away with simply listening to the lobbyists. I would try to pass legislation that would limit the power of the powerful lobbyists today. I think that I would even try to limit the amount of money that could be spread on campaigns. I might have the government spend their money for those campaigns so that everyone was on an equal footing. I would try to bring truth back to government. I would attempt to work with the news media. There are certainly still some people out there that are interested in truth. I would search them out and I would choose those people to attend my news conferences. If they were not telling the truth in their articles, I would not support them. As I watch from here, I think that there are many things that would come to mind for me. But once again, I believe that the most important thing would be to bring God back to government. The Constitution is very clear. Our country was formed to be a more perfect union based on God. Today, it is an imperfect union based on the devil. What more can I say?
Yeah. I want you to know that if you were running for president, I would vote for you in a heartbeat. Why do you think all of your predictions in the audios are actually coming true?
Because the evil of the 1960s became much stronger than I ever thought it could be. The children of the 60s, the flower children, many of them became college professors and school teachers, and they affected the young. They told the young that they do not need to listen to God. They told them that they do not need to follow the rules, that there is strength in being different, that you do not have to object peacefully, that you're allowed to be violent in the riots that you lead, that you have free will and you should use it to make changes, that the government is really not good, that the country is not good, that it does not deserve your patriotism. Those have been lessons that have been taught for many years to the young. And the young become the leaders. And when the young are taught that and they become the leaders, what could possibly go wrong?
You're absolutely correct. What do you think of the policies of our current government?
I think that in many ways, they are terribly destructive for the country. The government wants the people to be dependent upon them. That is not what the Constitution said and is not what our founding fathers conceived of when they founded our country. I always believed in strong individual independence. I believed in God. I believed in country. I believed in hard work. Today, the younger generation seems to not want to work as we did in the past. They want to make huge salaries, but they do not want to put in the time. They feel that recreation is often much more important than your job. It all starts with the young. When the young are properly educated, they will become the properly educated leaders of the future.
What do you think is the most dangerous policy for our country that the government is enforcing today?
Today, as I watch what is taking place on our borders, I cringe at what the results of what is taking place will be. Allowing millions of people into the country when you have no idea who they are can be an extremely dangerous situation. Today, there are terrorists that would like to kill every American, and we have no idea whether they are coming through our borders or not. The social costs of bringing millions of people in that cannot maintain jobs, that cannot pay taxes. What they are going to do to our medical system. Our doctors are overwhelmed today, and to bring in so many people that require funds from the government for medical care will further overload the system. The pharmaceuticals have gotten so expensive that the government will pay if these people require these expensive medicines. I think that one of the most dangerous things that is taking place is the fact that we have lost control of our borders.
Yes. In 1998, you include a segment in your radio show entitled An Open Letter from God. Let us play that audio, and then we have some questions on that one.
From now on, I'm quoting an open letter from God. My dear children, and believe me, that is all of you, I consider myself a pretty patient guy. I mean, look at the Grand Canyon. It took millions of years to get it right. And about evolution, boy, nothing is slower than designing that whole Darwinian thing to take place, cell by cell and gene by gene. And I have been patient through your fashions, your civilizations, wars, and schemes, and the countless ways that you take me for granted until you get yourselves into big trouble again and again. I want to let you know about some of the things that started ticking me off. First of all, your religious rivalries are driving me up a wall. Enough already. Let's get one thing straight. These are your religions, not mine. I'm the whole enchilada. I'm beyond them all. Every one of your religions claims that there's only one of me, which, by the way, is absolutely true, but in the very next breath, each religion claims that it's my favorite one, and each claims its Bible was written personally by me, and that all of the other Bibles are man-made. Oh, me. How do I ever begin to put a stop to such complicated nonsense? All right. Listen up now. I am your father and mother, and I don't play favorites among my children. Also, I hate to break it to you, but I don't write. My longhand is awful, and I've always been more of a doer anyway. So all of your books, including those Bibles, were written by men and women. They were inspired men and women. They were remarkable people, but they also made mistakes here and there, and I made sure of that so that you would never trust a written word rather than your own living heart. You see, one human being, to me, even a bum on the street, is worth more than all of the holy books in the world. That's just the kind of a guy I am. My spirit is not an historical thing. It's alive, right now, as fresh as your next breath. Holy books and religious rites are sacred and powerful, but they are not more so than the least of you. They were only meant to steer you in the right direction, not to keep you arguing with each other, and certainly not to keep you from trusting your own personal connection with me. Which brings me to my next point about your nonsense. You act like I need you and your religions to stick up for me or win souls. For my sake, please don't do me any favors. I can stand quite well on my own, thank you. I don't need you to defend me. I don't need constant credit. I just want you to be good to each other. And another thing, I don't get all worked up over money or politics, so stop dragging my name into your dramas. For example, I swear to me that I never threatened Oral Roberts. I never rode in any of Rajneesh's Rolls Royces, and I never told Pat Robertson to run for president. And I have never, ever had a conversation with Jim Baker or Jerry Falwell or Jimmy Swaggart. Of course, come Judgment Day, I certainly intend to. Now, the thing is, I want you to stop thinking of religion as some sort of a loyalty pledge to me. The true purpose of your religions is so that you can become more aware of me, not the other way around. Believe me, I know you already. I know what's in each of your hearts. And I love you anyway, with no strings attached. So lighten up and enjoy me. That's what religion's best for. What you seem to forget is how mysterious I am. You look at the petty differences in your scriptures and you say, well, if this is the truth, then that can't be. But instead of trying to figure out my paradoxes and unfathomable nature, which, by the way, you never will, why not open your hearts to the simple common threads of every religion? You know what I'm talking about. Play nice with each other. Love and respect everyone. Be kind. Even when life is scary or confusing, take courage and be of good cheer, for I'm always with you. And learn how to be quiet so that you can hear my still small voice. I don't like to shout. Leave the world a better place by living your life with dignity and gracefulness. For you are my own child. Hold back nothing from life. For the parts of you that can die surely will, and the parts that can't won't. So don't worry. Be happy. I stole that last line from Bobby McFerrin, but who gave it to him in the first place? Simple stuff now. Why do you keep making it so complicated? It's like you're always looking for an excuse to be upset. And I am very tired of your main excuse. Do you think I care whether you call me God or Yahweh or Jehovah, Allah, Wakatonka, Brahma, Father, Mother, even the void of Nirvana? Do you think I care which of my special children you feel closest to? Jesus, Mary, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, or any of the others? You can call me and my special ones any name you choose, if only you will go about my business. of loving one another as I love you. How can you keep neglecting something so simple? No, I am not telling you to abandon your religions. Enjoy your religions. Honor them. Learn from them. Just as you should enjoy, honor, and learn from your parents. But do you walk around telling everyone that your parents are better than theirs? Your religion, like your parents, may always have the most special place in your heart. I don't mind that at all. And I don't want you to combine all of the great traditions into one big mess. Each religion is unique for a reason. Each has a unique style so that people can find the best path for themselves. But, my special children, the ones that your religions revolve around, all live in the same place, in my heart. And they get along perfectly, I assure you. The clergy must stop creating a myth of sibling rivalry where there is none. My blessed children of earth, the world has grown too small for your pervasive religious bigotries and confusion. The whole planet is now connected by air travel, satellite dishes, telephones, fax machines, rock concerts, diseases, and mutual needs and concerns. Get with the program. If you really want to help me celebrate the birthday of my son Jesus, then commit yourselves to figuring out how to feed your hungry and clothe your naked and protect your abused and shelter your poor. And just as important, make your own everyday life a shining example of kindness and good humor. I've given you all of the resources you need if only you abandon your fear of each other and begin living and loving and laughing together. Finally, my children everywhere, remember whose birthday you honor on what you call Christmas Day, December 25, and the fearlessness with which he chose to live and die. As I love him, so do I love each of you. Now, I am not really ticked off. Not really. I just wanted to grab your attention because I hate to see you suffer. But I gave you free will. So what can I do now other than try to influence you through reason, persuasion, and a little old-fashioned guilt and manipulation? After all, I am the original Jewish mother. I just want you to be happy. And I'll sit in the dark. I really am. Indeed, I swear, with you always. Always. Trust in me. Your one and only God. End quote. Paul Harvey. Good day.
Okay, there we have it. Connie?
Yes, that was very unique. Where did you get the inspiration for this segment?
It was just simply something that I was watching. I knew that God had many, many ways and teachings that the people were going against. I thought that I might be able to truly reach many people with this. And I did. Many people at least stopped and thought a little bit about what I was saying. I know that it wasn't easy, and I know that many people disagreed with it, but it was truly what I believe. It's truly what I still believe. And now that I'm on the other side, I still believe those words. Many people do not listen to the words of God, and they are so simple to follow his commands. When you're over here, you truly know that without understanding and believing in God, there is no future.
You definitely speak the truth. What do you think about religious rivalries today?
I think they are terrible, to be honest with you. The Islamic faith was meant to be one of peace, one of knowing Allah or God. It was never intended that any religion would become a weapon of violence. I believe that today many religions are very fearful that people will come to understand that many of the teachings of which they speak are not truly the words of God. There are Christian faiths, there are faiths around the world that are using their religions as an excuse for violence. No religion should ever be used as an excuse to hurt others. The concept of religion is still a good thing. Many people follow the words of religions. Many people build social structure from the words that they are taught. But they need to understand that all religions have fallacies within them. They need to study, they need to enlighten themselves into what God really and truly means.
Well, if they listen to your talk there, they'll know. One of our listeners would like to know what God thought about your open letter. Did he talk to you about that?
I was greeted with open arms when I returned to heaven. Jesus was one of the individuals that welcomed me back into heaven, my true home. I had served God in many other lifetimes, and they realized that I did my best to serve him when I was Paul Harvey. It is a wonderful thing to be highly judged when you return. I would hope that each of you listening out there would think that they would like to be highly judged as well. And to do so, they simply have to follow the words of God and live a good life. It could not be more simple.
That's true. You had a rather negative opinion of all the religious books. How did you arrive at that opinion?
I studied many documents. I understood the contrasts that were in many of the ancient Gospels. I read many of the books that were never published in the Bible. I understood that there were many, many different opinions. When you truly understand history, you will truly understand that the documents upon which the different faiths are established were written by man. And man has clay feet. Man interjected his own opinions. The church interjected what they needed in order to build fear within their parishioners. I understood truly that God or Jesus spoke honestly of love. He never spoke fear. He spoke of the wonderful heaven. I agreed with some of the writings, but there were many that I disagreed with. I could not believe that he taught the uneducated with difficult parables. I could not believe that he would have retained the people, the following that he did, if he had used complicated language. I believed in simplicity in religion, and now that I'm over here, I know that I was correct.
100%. You stated in that letter, the true purpose of religion is so that you can become more aware of me, not the other way around. Would you explain that for our listeners?
Certain religions are the be-all and end-all, not the fact that God should be the be-all and end-all. Many religions put themselves in front of God. They try to raise as much money as they can. They try to intimidate their parishioners. They teach fear. The whole idea of how you are greeted when you return is how you treat your life and how you treat your belief in God. A religion can help, it can guide, or it can actually hinder. Not many people understand that today, but I did, and I tried to be very true to my simple faith.
You did a great job. You speak about the common threads of every religion. Would you speak to us about these common threads, please?
The first individuals that started the different religions had the same faith. They wanted to coexist. They wanted to live in peace. They wanted to worship their God as they understood him. And they wanted to simply do things that would give the individuals of the respective areas a happy and peaceful life. If you look deeply into the writings of all the great prophets that were sent back by God, you will see that the simple concept of the golden rule as you understand it, do not do anything to anyone that you do not want done to yourself. That concept, the concept of coexistence and love, that is the foundation of all religions, all faiths. The churches have altered that in many ways, but the foundation of all of the different early religions are the same.
As you watch from the other side, do you see any improvement in the world religions?
Sadly, I do not. I see religions where the youth are treated in terrible fashion. I see religions where their members are told that if they do not join their specific religion, they will not go to heaven. I see religions where they speak that if you talk against their faith, that you should be put to death. I see religions where individuals that are different sexually, that are not healthy, these individuals are often persecuted and put to death. All creatures are creations of God, and they should be treated with the same respect. Sadly, I think that many religions are perhaps even worse than when I was speaking and when I was walking the earth.
Under the current conditions, do you think it's possible for humans to find true happiness?
Absolutely. All an individual has to do is love God and follow his words. That will lead to a state where you do not fear your day of passing. That will lead to an inner glow, a light, the light that God puts within all of us. It is very simple for an individual to find personal happiness. It is simply the joy of helping others. It is the joy of living a good life. It is the joy of knowing that when you return, that you will be greeted and that you will be told that you fulfilled the requirements that were given to you when you were born. It's actually very simple. Live a good life, and you can find true happiness.
Thank you for that advice. What role did your wife play in your career?
My wife played a huge role in my career. She would see things that I could not see. She would act to help me do a better job. She would help with the wording sometimes of my scripts. She would give me ideas. She was my true partner. And when she passed, I dearly missed her. I now am with her, reunited, and it is part of the true happiness of being in heaven.
You stated self-government won't work without self-discipline. Excellent. Would you explain it for our listeners?
Individuals must show self-discipline. They must lead by example. They cannot fall under the evil that is around them at all times. They must do what is good. Individuals must be strong. They must build their own foundation of faith, and then they must build upon that foundation. If individuals do not have self-discipline, they will fall under the influence of peers that have evil. They may become drug addicted. They may do many things that will destroy their lives. Self-discipline towards understanding of how to live a good life and your love of God is very critical.
You were friends with the FBI Director, J. Edgar Hoover. Did your opinion change about him when you arrived on the other side?
When I arrived over here, there were things that I found out that were said about Edgar in life that were true. He had clay feet in many ways, but he did much to try to preserve the government as I believed it should have been preserved. I was very anti-communist. I knew in my heart that in the long run they would be dangerous to the entire world of democracies. I watched the Cold War take place. I watched the wall come down. I knew that communism was the greatest risk to democracies. And he was very strong in what he did with trying to rid the government of communism.
Would you tell us about the Argonne National Laboratory event?
That is something that I should not have done. I tried to prove that the government security was very lax. They were doing atomic research in this place. I climbed over the fence and found out that the security was much better than I realized because I was immediately arrested. Many people that did not like me tried to create problems for me over it. It was not something I should have done. It is not something I ever recommend anyone doing. And it was truly a moment of stupidity.
You were a friend of Reverend Billy Graham. What did you think when you arrived on the other side and found out that he was the reincarnated son of Jesus?
I was amazed. First of all, I had listened to the Gospels and I did not realize that Jesus had children or a family. Billy was an incredible person. He taught the words of God as he understood them. He converted millions of people to Christianity. He was a one of a kind. And when I got back into heaven, I found out that he truly was one of a kind.
You were also a close friend of U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy and supported his campaign to expose and expel communists from American society and government. Do you have any regrets about supporting Senator McCarthy?
Yes, sadly I do. I did not realize the harm that he was causing. I was fairly isolated in doing my radio show, and I thought that he was very hard on communists, and I felt that that was the way the government had to go, but I did not realize that he was persecuting innocent people.
What is your opinion of Vladimir Putin?
At this time, I consider Putin the personification of the devil. He has invaded an innocent country. He is killing tens of thousands of his own men. He is destroying his country. He is creating problems for the world, and he is in possession of nuclear weapons capable of ending mankind as we know it. He is a very, very dangerous individual.
Yeah. Do you see any pathway to peace in the Middle East?
I think that the pathway to peace in the Middle East is only through the education of the young. I think that there is only one way, The young are taught hatred. As long as they are taught hatred of the Jewish people, there's literally very little that can be done.
I am so glad that you joined us this evening, and we ran out of time for our questions. Perhaps we'll have to have you back again. But in the meantime, do you have a final message for us?
Yes, I want to thank you for allowing me to come through tonight. I must admit I enjoyed it, and perhaps I may have been a bit long-winded. I felt very strongly in life about God and country. I've always felt that the United States was the greatest country on earth. I always felt that if the United States did not lead the rest of the nations, that the other nations would have great difficulties. Today, your nation is under attack. Sadly, many of the words that I spoke in my conversations of the devil are coming true. When I spoke them, I had hoped that they would not. But as I watch from the other side, I see great dangers for our country. I hope that individuals will stop. I hope that individuals will follow the words of God. I hope that they will do what needs to be done in order to lead the other countries back to peace. Russia has to be defeated. There is no doubt. If they succeed in taking the lands of the Ukraine, there is no doubt that they will be taking other lands because they feel that the democracies of the world are weak and do not have the stomach to stop them. I think that it is a time that everyone has to reassess the people that they elect to office. I think it is a time that all people have to reflect on the dangers of removing God from your everyday lives. So I thank you very much for allowing me to come through. I hope that I did not bore you, and I hope that some of my words will be able to help you in the future. So goodbye, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you, and trust me, you are not one bit boring at all.
Okay, no, Connie, people did not call me boring. So thank you so much again. All right, my 10th book, Modern Message of the Archangels, is now available for purchase. You can buy it on Amazon in paperback, hardcover, ebook, and even audiobooks. Signed copies are only available through my website, barrystrohm.com. At the current time, we're bringing you 3 other podcasts to help you understand the afterlife and God wants of each of us. On Wednesdays, we do a weekly message from Jesus. On Sundays, a Sunday sermon. And our new podcast, Hello Heaven, is on Friday evenings. So please join us and learn the path to true happiness.
I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight on Channeling History. Tonight we brought you some of the audios of Paul Harvey as well as his opinions on many subjects. I hope you enjoyed that as much as what we did, as we did bringing you his words. We have been trying to bring you the truth about history by speaking to the souls that lived the events. It's only by understanding the events of the past that we can prepare properly for the future. So have a wonderful week, everyone. God bless you.
All of our shows are available on our YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strohm. If you want to download them, you can go to podomatic.com or podbean.com and simply search Channeling History. YouTube has the YouTube channel is the archive for all the shows that we've done, and we currently have over 620 of them on that channel. So I want to thank you. I thought we had an exceptionally interesting show tonight. I'm actually looking for ideas for future shows, so if you have any, please feel free to email me. Please let me know your ideas. Tonight, we thank Patty for giving us the name of Paul Harvey. So thank you. We hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for listening. And please join us Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Para X Radio Network.
History Tune in again next week for another electrifying episode, as we never know who will make an appearance or who will come through the portal. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2020. Our Story Begins by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.